I'm not, I've heard, they can't get a deal done with Tank. I've heard the venue's a problem.
Gervonta Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach, which was the talk of the town, is not happening in 2024 now, after rumors surfaced of Gervonta being into some beef with IBF.
So he turns around and he says to PBC, right, how much am I getting for this fight? And they go, well, obviously, we'll have to see how it does, at the gate and on the pay-per-view. And he goes, well, I'm not fighting if I'm not getting X, because Eddie Hearn offered me $15 million to fight Conor Benn.
Gervonta Tank Davis is slated to face Lamont Roach in the main event of a Premier Boxing Champions pay-per-view. However, there are whispers of potential postponement, with Dan Rafael citing multiple sources who suggest the odds are split even at 50-50. The sticking point appears to be the planned venue, Houston's Toyota Center, which currently neither confirms nor denies the event on its schedule for that date. Eddie Hearn commented on the complexities of fight negotiations, emphasizing the perceived imbalance in compensation relative to the challenge of the fights being offered. He pointed out the discrepancy between the substantial purse received for a previous less challenging fight and the significantly lower offer for what is considered a tougher upcoming match.
And I'm not even saying it's the PBC's fault, because they couldn't deliver him a big fight, but it's a tough fight, kind of. And he'll be saying, well, like this is a tougher fight than, who's the guy who boxed last time? Frank Martin. And I got, I don't know, 15 million to fight Frank Martin, and you're telling me I'm only going to get 5 or 6 to fight this guy. I'm not fighting for 5 or 6 million.
Boxing experts have laid out their predictions for the upcoming bout between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach. Promoter Eddie Hearn is unruffled by Davis, known as Tank, choosing Lamont Roach Jr., a super featherweight contender, for their December 14th matchup. According to Hearn, Davis had few appealing alternatives, as the leading candidates were already committed, making Roach the most logical pick.
But Lamont Roach is a good fighter. And if you know you're boxing, you know it's a good fight, but he is a super featherweight. He's much smaller than Tank. But, I don't think it's a bad fight, but it's gone down terribly because no one knows who Lamont Roach is. But it's, what were the options for Tank, really? He doesn't want to fight Shakur, and Shakur got injured.
The possible rivals for Davis, Eden de los Santos, Andy Cruz, Keyshawn Davis, and Raymond Muratalla, are no more well-known than Roach. Choosing any of them wouldn't have significantly lifted pay-per-view numbers or enhanced public recognition beyond what the Roach fight offers. Speaking to Fight Hub TV, Eddie Hearn felt the online backlash was a bit harsh. He acknowledged that while some fans are dismissive of the matchup, Roach is indeed a competent boxer. Yet, Hearn pointed out the real issue. Roach isn't a household name, and with Davis's stature in boxing, fans expected more illustrious opponents, which this fight fails to provide.
Like, everybody hates the fight, but Lamont Roach is a good fighter. But the problem is no one knows who he is. And I think with, Tank's position in the sport, people want him to be in the big fights, and it's not a big fight.
The dissatisfaction isn't just because Roach isn't widely recognized. It's more about the avid boxing enthusiasts who are familiar with him yet have no interest in seeing him square off against Davis. Davis's team has been strategic, perhaps overly protective, by matching him with lesser-known fighters, thereby safeguarding his winning streak, but at the expense of his potential earnings. A more challenging lineup over the past decade could have significantly boosted his financial intake. Hearn highlighted that feasible opponents like Haney weren't competing. A rematch with Ryan Garcia was off the table, and Pitbull Cruz had already been defeated, likely the matchup they had intended. Despite understanding the public's reaction, Hearn accepted that the Davis versus Roach event would not draw major attention, although it remains a solid fight that's just not on the radar for many.
Haney's not around fighting, Ryan Garcia rematch isn't there, Pitbull Cruz got beat, and that was definitely the fight I think they were going to make. Valenzuela's not ready. So, all in all, I get it, but it's just not going to do big numbers because it's not a fight that people are aware of is actually quite a good fight.
Davis, undefeated with a record of 30-0, 28 KOs, aims to defend his WBA lightweight title against Roach, who boasts a record of 25-1-1, 10 KOs, and holds the WBA title at super featherweight. This bout would mark Davis's second appearance in the ring for 2024, following his victory over Frank Martin in June. Roach, too, has been active this year, securing a win against Firgal McCrory in a June title defense in Washington, D.C. Robert Garcia Garcia praised Gervonta Tank Davis for his strong performance at the gate and overall skills in the ring. He noted that Davis is a talented fighter whose matches are compelling because of the uncertainty of when he will deliver a knockout, even if he appears passive in the early rounds. Robert Garcia said, "Tank is doing, he sells a lot, he does really good on in the gates. His numbers are not bad. He's a very talented fighter. I like watching his fights. I like watching him because you never know when he's going to do it." Additionally, Garcia expressed his desire for Davis to take on more challenging opponents. He admires Davis's capacity to decisively finish fights after a slow start, highlighting his ability to shift gears and dominate when it counts, which makes him a special fighter in Garcia's eyes. He added, "He could take 6 rounds off, but then in the 7th he takes care of business, that's how good he is, but I would love to see him fight a little better challenges." Greg Hackett shared insights from his first-hand experiences with Lamont Roach Jr., recounting the times Roach visited Philadelphia to train and spar at Joe Hand's gym. Hackett, having observed Roach's skills on numerous occasions, confidently affirms Roach's capabilities and readiness for significant bouts. He said, "I've been watching Lamont Roach box for a while. They used to come to Philly and box at Joe Hand's all the time, so I have seen Lamont Roach a bunch of times and I can stamp him." Despite the matchup's regional appeal along the East Coast, some fans expressed discontent, believing Davis should be challenging top-tier lightweights instead of a super featherweight contender. A fan expressed, "Lamont Roach coming up from a 130 to challenge Gervonta Davis is a trash fight, but I'm still going to watch it like I watch every other boxing match." This bout is perceived as a less risky move for Davis, contrasting the more formidable challenges from other leading lightweights. Discussions about the fight are intensifying, particularly as it may coincide with the Tyson vs. Usyk rematch on December 21st, adding to the event's allure.
What do you think about Lamont Roach and him?
Oh, man. That's a good fight. That's a real good fight. I would love to see that. That'd be a scrappy fight.
The boxing community is abuzz with discussions about the impending Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach fight, with some experts suggesting Roach could cause an upset. Roach, moving up from super featherweight to challenge Davis at lightweight for the WBA 135 LB title on December 14th, faces a pivotal career decision depending on the outcome. Victory would require him to choose between retaining the lightweight title or returning to super featherweight within 5 days, whereas a defeat mandates a defense of his super featherweight title within 120 days.
So it looks like Gervonta Tank Davis is going to bring up 130-pounder Lamont Roach. Look like they got some type of special permission from the sanctioning bodies to be able to bring him up and, he'd be able to hold his title and Tank defend his 135 title versus Lamont Roach.
Cigar Talk host Najee remarked, "Can't be mad at Tank versus Lamont Roach. Roach is a champion. Also, we can't forget Loma was the first option and ducked." And he didn't stop there. He carried on saying,
man, I think Lamont Roach is a really good fighter, man, a skilled boxer, damn good fighter for his weight division. But I just want to ask the hardcore Tank Davis fans, is this the fight that y'all wanted? Is this what y'all was looking for? This what y'all was willing to, ready to pay your money for? And is what y'all was clamoring for? I know it's a lot of Tank fans talking about, well, who else he was going to fight. I mean, I don't think Shakur Stevenson ever got an actual contract, an actual offer where you can accept it or turn it down from Tank Davis. He's a champion in Tank's division. You know what I'm saying? Is this what y'all wanted?
This ongoing narrative underscores the challenges and criticisms Davis faces, juxtaposed against his significant bouts against fighters like Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios, where he benefited from rehydration clauses. Amidst this, Kenny Ellis voiced his enthusiasm for the matchup, anticipating a thrilling clash that will highlight both fighters' abilities on a prominent stage. Meanwhile, Davis continues to be critiqued for seemingly choosing less demanding opponents to maintain his dominance.
From Texas.
Yeah, what's your take on Lamont Roach, man?
Tough kid from out of D.C. I like him. He remind me of a small version of Simon Brown.
This strategy has sparked frustration among fans, including Leidra States on X, who stated, "Gervonta, you wilding bro, I f*** with you heavy, but I'm dead ass not watching this fight with Lamont Roach." In response, Davis sharply retorted, "Now shut the f*** Get back to whatever you were doing. Hitchens highlighted the shared backgrounds and traits between Lamont Roach and Gervonta "Tank" Davis, emphasizing their similar upbringings and the parallels in their boxing careers. He pointed out that despite Roach's previous loss to Jamel Herring, many may not recognize Roach's consistent performance over the years, underscoring his resilience and ability to bounce back. Hitchens stated, "Lamont came up in the same type of environment as Tank. They both got a lot of similarities. I think a lot of people are writing Lamont off because of loss against Jamel Herring, but he has shown consistency over the years." The undefeated fighter with an 18-0 record expressed enthusiasm for the upcoming match, predicting it will showcase technical prowess. Discussing the tactical advantage, Richardson Hitchens commended Gervonta "Tank" Davis's skills, saying, "It is going to be a great technical fight. Tank is a defensive genius. He knows how to protect himself and knows ways to maneuver." Defending Lamont Roach as a formidable challenger, Hitchens pointed out, "It's not just like Tank is just picking out a bum. Lamont probably knows how to fight more than a lot of guys Tank fought." Lamont Roach, boasting a record of 25-1-1 with 10 KOs, holds the WBA super featherweight title. Noted for his robust inside fighting and strong jab, Roach combines solid boxing fundamentals with a persistent competitive spirit. Claressa Shields commented on the underestimation of Lamont Roach's capabilities despite his impressive amateur background. She acknowledged his skill and resilience, emphasizing that while Tank is a formidable opponent known for his toughness and fighting prowess, Roach's own qualities should not be overlooked.
I don't know why everybody is kind of sleeping on Lamont, but he has a decorated amateur career too. He's a very sturdy kid. He's very skilled. Tank is Tank. And when I say Tank is Tank, I mean like he's a bad man. He can fight. He's tough. I know we had our dispute back and forth, whatever. But at the end of the day, if we talk about just boxing,
hey, absolutely.
He's a good fighter, and I look forward to watching that fight.
Claressa Shields further elaborated on her expectations for the fight, predicting it will highlight technical mastery and skill from both fighters. She also anticipated showcasing Davis's renowned power, underscoring a key aspect of the bout that fans eagerly await. She added, "I think that this fight is going to be very technical, very, very, very skillful, and as always, we're going to see the power of Tank on display." Claressa Shields playfully responded to a question about devising a strategy for defeating Davis, joking about the implications of giving away such a game plan. She acknowledged that every fighter has vulnerabilities, but highlighted Davis's awareness of the challenge he faces and his preparedness, praising his coach, Calvin Ford, for his excellent training and mentorship.
And if he's to be successful, how would he do that?
To beat Tank?
Yeah.
Now you want me to give somebody the game plan on how to beat Tank?
You would be a great trainer because you have the
Tank
skill.
don't like me, so I ain't gonna get nobody the recipe to beat him. So you can thank me later, my nigga. But other than that, everybody can be beat. But I think that Tank know that he's against a good fighter and he'll train hard. And shout out to his coaches, Calvin. I love his coach, Calvin. He's a great trainer, and he's taught Tank and built him up well.
Lamont Roach's ability to adapt and score effectively makes him a substantial challenge. Despite not being the hardest hitter, his consistent performance and tactical acumen render him a worthy opponent for Davis. Roach's resilience and tactical approach, coupled with his experience at high levels of competition, underline his potential to present a real threat in their upcoming bout. Meanwhile, welterweight standout Kenneth Sims Jr., who has competed against both Roach and Davis, shared his perspective on the fight strategies each needs to adopt for victory. Initially hesitant to predict the outcome due to his good relations with both fighters, Sims, known as the Bossman, eventually shared reflections on his past intense national semifinal bout with Roach. Kenneth Sims Jr. shared his personal connection with Lamont Roach, highlighting their close relationship and how it influences his perspective on upcoming fights. He acknowledged a preference for Roach over Gervonta "Tank" Davis due to their stronger bond.
Well, Lamont's my friend, so I'm a little biased. I'm cool. Tank's cool too, but me and Lamont's relationship is a lot closer to me and Tank, so I'm biased during that for that one. So I'm Team Lamont for that one.
Kenneth Sims Jr. discussed the underdog perception surrounding Lamont Roach in the upcoming fight, emphasizing that Roach's skills should not be underestimated. He pointed out that Roach has always been a formidable boxer, from his early days to his professional career. He stressed that Roach's experience and achievements are often overlooked, which contributes to the mixed reactions online.
It is boxing, so it's always a shot, and it's not like he's a slouch. Right. I don't know, I seen the outrage on the internet, everybody mad about it, but he's a world champion for a reason. He's been, since we were kids, he's been one of the top guys in the country and in the world as an amateur, and now as a pro. So it's not like it's a slouch. It's somebody they picked up off the street.
Right.
He's a world champion in his own right. Yeah.
Lastly, Sims touched on Roach's motivation, suggesting that the criticism might fuel Roach to prove his detractors wrong. He indicated that Roach is likely to enter the fight with a heightened sense of determination due to the disrespect he perceives from the boxing community and fans.
I think he got a chip on his shoulder now because everybody like dissing him for no reason. So now he probably gonna come fight harder. You never know what could happen.
Yeah.
He also commented on Davis's tendency to start fights slowly, observing, Tank starts slow, but as the fight progresses, he is going to pick it up and then he gets busy, highlighting Davis's strategic approach to ramping up intensity as bouts unfold. Meanwhile, he recognized Lamont Roach as a seasoned and technically proficient fighter. Discussing the broader pay-per-view market, Paulie Malignaggi critiqued the matchmaking for Davis, asserting, Davis is a bona fide pay-per-view star. Whether you agree that so many of his fights should have been on pay-per-view, and I disagreed with most of them, he's been established on pay-per-view for a while now. What's been lacking is the proper opposition necessary to charge those kinds of fees. Malignaggi emphasized the need for higher caliber opponents to justify the high costs of pay-per-view events. Lamont Roach, holding the WBA super featherweight title with 10 KOs and fighting at 130 pounds, is stepping up to the 135-pound division to challenge Gervonta Tank Davis, who boasts 28 KOs and the WBA secondary lightweight belt. Roach, previously seen as an emerging talent in the boxing world, saw his ascent slowed by a draw against Orlando Cruz in 2018 and a split decision loss to Jamel Herring in 2019. Although he currently holds a title, Roach has not been in the spotlight much recently, with his most significant win being a split decision against Hector Luis Garcia, a fighter Tank Davis defeated by knockout in 9 rounds in January 2023, where whatever the reasons, Gervonta Davis was and will be everyone's favorite even if the fight happens or not. But Greg Hackett marked Lamont Roach an equal and worthy opponent. Greg Hackett emphasized Lamont Roach's resilience and capability as a fighter, cautioning against underestimating him. He pointed out that Roach's solid track record and mutual history with his opponent add layers of complexity to the upcoming bout. Greg Hackett said, Roach is a sturdy opponent though. Roach is no slouch. I mean, you can't sleep on Roach. I know that also got history. There are also things they haven't talked about that they do know about each other. I think we in for a good fight for that alone. Greg Hackett further described Roach as a strong, albeit not overwhelmingly powerful puncher who effectively utilizes his skills in the ring. Hackett also compared Roach's style to Tank, noting Davis's explosive, crafty, and fast-paced approach, along with his predatory instincts and excellent footwork.
Roach is a good inside fighter. I mean, he got the good jab. He got the good basics. You know what I mean? Strong kid, not the hardest puncher, but he will hurt you. And you know, he doesn't have a flashy style. You know what I mean? He more so just getting in where he can find it. You know what I mean? Getting in where he can find it. Trying to score shots. You know what I mean? If he can get the knockout, he will. Tank, we all know Tank. Explosive, crafty, fast, you know, good footwork, predator, you know, so on and so forth. So it should be a good fight.
This upcoming bout presents Roach with a chance to reclaim his rising star status and demonstrate his capabilities on a larger platform, particularly against a well-known figure like Davis. Tank excels physically over Lamont Roach with superior knockout power, faster hand and foot speed, and greater agility. His robust athleticism and strength enable explosive performances and resilience in the ring, making him a formidable opponent who can dominate fights with both speed and power. Gary Russell Jr. shared his thoughts on the dynamics of the upcoming fight between Tank and Lamont Roach. He anticipated that the early rounds might offer some intriguing moments, suggesting that Roach might use movement and boxing skills to keep the fight competitive initially. However, Russell believed that as the bout progresses, Davis's superior physical strength will become a decisive factor. Gary Russell Jr. said, "It's going to be interesting, probably for maybe the first half of the fight. I think the first half of the fight is going to be a little interesting. I still think Tank is going to just be able to physically overwhelm Roach. I think Roach is probably going to try to move out to box, but I think Tank is going to physically overwhelm him later on in the fight." Gary Russell Jr. criticized Lamont Roach's fighting style, describing him as lacking mobility and speed, both in his footwork and hand movements. Russell also pointed out Roach's defensive skills, suggesting they are not particularly sophisticated, which could be a significant disadvantage in high-level boxing.
Roach is flat-footed. He's flat-footed, he's slow on his feet. He's not the fastest guy on his hand. He doesn't have like qualified defense or anything like that. What you see is what you get. What you see is what you get with these guys.
In contrast, Russell discussed Gervonta Tank Davis's approach to fights, which some interpret as strategic, where he appears to give away the early rounds. Russell expressed skepticism about this tactic, questioning the wisdom of taking hits as a form of strategy and dismissed it as an ineffective way to gather data on an opponent.
When you're dealing with Tank, Tank, he gives away the first half of the fight. Whether he's giving away the first half of the fight because people nowadays say he's calculating data. I don't consider that shit calculating data by getting punched in the fucking face for about 6-7 rounds. My eyes swole, my shit's red and shit like that, just to get a lucky shot or just to get a shot in, you know what I'm saying, in the 8th, 9th round or the 7th round.
Gary Russell Jr. also elaborated what it means to calculate data in boxing. He criticized the notion that absorbing hits could be considered a strategic approach. Instead, he defined effective strategy as being able to disrupt an opponent's attacks, slip punches, and avoid damage, rather than merely enduring it. He said, calculating data is when you can strategically take from a motherfucker, stop his attacks slipping, and avoiding his attack and shit. Hair not doing that, they getting touched with this shit consistently. Meanwhile, Davis's team seems to prefer a cautious approach in opponent selection, often opting for less challenging matchups and steering clear of the more formidable lightweight contenders. This strategy has kept Davis away from the division's more threatening figures, favoring safer fights over potentially risky confrontations. Delaying this fight is killing the audience and nothing else. Everyone knows that this is the history among these fighters that is making this fight more anticipated and thrilled. Coach Kenny Ellis provided some historical context in an interview with Fight Hype. He mentioned that Davis and Roach have a history from their amateur days, with Davis typically having the upper hand in both amateur matches and sparring sessions. Ellis acknowledged that both fighters have grown since then, not just in age but also in strength. Despite rumors of Davis being outperformed in spars by previous opponents, Ellis pointed out that Davis consistently proves himself when it counts. On fight night, he said, they fought in the amateurs 2 or 3 times, with Tank being the winner. They sparred a few times. Tank got the best of the sparring. They're just bigger and stronger now and older. Tank's last 4 or 5 opponents had film about how they beat him up in sparring. If that's the case, that happens. But on fight night, we all know the outcome. Furthermore, Ellis addressed the underestimation of Lamont Roach, attributing it to his lower profile compared to other fighters. Despite Roach being less known, Ellis emphasized that Roach is a formidable opponent with a significant track record in boxing, including multiple national championships. He added, it's not Tank's fault. The guys with the so-called names turned Tank down. They priced themselves out. Because people don't know Lamont, he's not as popular. They think he can't fight, but Lamont can fight, and he has a hell of a pedigree. He's a 7-time national champion, and he's tough. He can fight. What are your thoughts on the postponement? Do you think it will affect the fighter's performance or the hype surrounding the bout? Share your views in the comments below, and stay tuned for updates on the rescheduled date so you don't miss any action from this highly awaited fight.